Today we pause to remember September 11th, a day that forever changed our nation. We remember the lives that were lost. We remember the families who still carry that grief. And we remember the first responders who ran towards the unthinkable with courage that still inspires us. But we also remember how it changed all of us, our way of life, our sense of safety, and especially for those of us in the military, our lives were altered so drastically. Many of us were called into a different kind of service, one that reshaped our futures, our families, and our nation's story. This day is not only about tragedy, it's also about resilience that rose out of the ashes. It's about our neighbors helping neighbors, strangers becoming brothers and sisters, a country that stood together and in a way that the world will never forget. As we reflect, let's honor the sacrifice, let's remember the unity, and let's carry forward the strength that carried us through. May this remembrance remind us not only of what we lost, but of what we became and the responsibility we still share to stand for one another. I don't know about you, Pete, but
Uh,
I remember us all being there because I don't remember if we were all on day shift or not, but we were all there because we got called in.
right.
If you weren't at work, if you were at work, you were in the driver's lounge going, "What in the world is going on?" Me, I personally remember
Hmm.
just sitting there on leaning on one of them tables in there watching that TV and going like, "I cannot believe what I'm watching." And then
Right. I mean, hell, that was kind of. I mean, if you were on day shift, that was just a couple hours into
correct,
your
yeah.
shift.
And then as we're
Yeah.
watching this insane thing that just happened, that second plane goes in, and then the world starts realizing, oh, this wasn't an accident. And that
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
like the attitude change of not only just us there in the room, but and on the news and around the world, it immediately like
Hmm.
that second plane hit and
Yeah.
everything changed. And I just remember we had just had an air show, I believe, because there was this big old Russian airplane on our tarmac, and
Oh,
they
right.
were staying. You remember there was a hotel right down the right over the MLK bridge, and it was downtown St. Louis, and like the
Oh,
Adams
yeah.
Mark or somewhere like that. That's where they were all at. Well, once that second plane hit, the wing commanders called us and said that crew's getting on. They are getting on that plane and getting that plane the hell out of here now. Get it out.
Right.
Somebody's got to get to downtown and get them. So I am driving in this. I got sent down there to pick this Russian crew up, and as I'm driving in the Surrey bus, you could it was like buzzards in the sky, like because they wouldn't let planes land, if you remember, because
Hmm.
but now by now you've got the two towers, you've got the Philadelphia field, I think, and then the Pentagon, right? Yep,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, and
Yeah. The
then the Pentagon.
Pennsylvania
So
field.
now they're not
Pentagon.
letting anything. They're like, no, no.
No,
So
they
yes,
grounded
and
everything.
I
Yep.
am driving. They're talking on the news like, oh, they're going after landmarks and things like that. I'm driving to the arch, and I'm like, oh my god! And all these
Hmm.
planes are just like, and then as I'm either on the way there or on the way back, I can't remember that the radio said that the first tower had fell, and I didn't. I was like, what?
Hmm.
So I called in to dispatch, and I'm like, did that really happen? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, that massive thing that with all this, like you just can imagine the amount of people that is in a building that size.
Right. And that moment is when my phone rang because I was
Okay.
on mids and I had only been home hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. I was dead asleep. My sister was living with me at the time, and she called me first and said, "Can you look into something happened? A plane hit the World Trade Center." She was working at what was the large aviation company in downtown
Oh,
St. Louis?
Boeing.
Boeing. She was working there. And I looked at it, I get out of bed, I turn it on, and sure enough, there it was. As soon as I turned it on, the second plane hit. And I was like, oh, I guess they're replaying everything. And come to find out, no, that was the second plane. And my girlfriend at the time, Liz, you remember her? She jumps out and she's out of bed and she's watching TV with me. And as soon as that first tower fell, by the time it hit the ground, Tammy Early called me. And she called it. She said, "Do you know why I'm calling?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How long do we have to get in?" She said, "You have 20 minutes."
That was pretty much.
But it took over 3
I was
hours
just about to bring that up
to get on that
because
base.
when
3
I left
hours.
to pick up that crew, what is St. Louis? I mean, obviously traffic. So we're talking probably an hour and a half on my way back, because I was in a hurry, and they told me not to worry about things that the cops weren't worrying about, government tags right now. So like they just get there is however you can, get back however you can. And they also told me that the traffic had changed since I left. You couldn't get on base. They were using the cornfields for parking. Like
my truck was parked in a cornfield.
People were walking miles because they quit letting vehicles in, and so they had to call and get a security forces. Just told me like get on the shoulder or whatever. Get where. Well, you remember there's like shopping malls, shopping centers, and so I'm just like kind of like going around people in this. You know, a Surrey bus is not an F1. F-250.
It's not small.
You know? So I'm like trying to get this thing to the gate, and then I got a police escort onto the base. You know, because the wing commander ordered that plane to be gone. So that's the only reason I was off the base, because I was, number one, I lived on it, and number two, I was sitting in the driver's lounge not doing anything. You know, we were all watching what happened, and then we all wanted to. I just remember our whole attitude change, and I don't know about yours, but I was 100% getting out. I did not want to be in the Air Force. I didn't like it. I was young and stupid, and I didn't like rules and all that. And I just remember that day, all of that changing. And it's like, no, I have to stay. You know, I mean, because at that point I would have been probably A1C about to put on senior airman to 2001. Yeah. So I'd have been probably that October, which so in a month I'd have been putting on senior airman. And I had no intentions of staying. And then after that, just like attitude, it was a complete attitude change. Like now I have to stay, you know, now it's a duty thing. Now it's a patriotic thing.
Right. You know, I just remember trying to get on base, and like I said, it took 3 hours. You remember that little that tiny little strip?
That's what I was talking about. That's where I was driving
area, like the VA, where the
it's like a dry cleaner over there.
Yeah, that's where I parked. I parked there. Well, no, was there a dry cleaner? I'm talking about the back.
Yeah, I know
where the train tracks
there might
are.
not have been a dry cleaner, but
yeah. I parked right there because I couldn't get on. I parked the truck, locked it up, walked on base. They were just ripping people's cars apart coming on base. And I walk around because, you know, you didn't have far to walk from that back gate. So I walk over to the shop, get inside. I remember Chaponis and Belcher, Sullivan, and I want to say Runyon, maybe, were standing in the dispatch office with Early. Early was in there, and I walk in, and we're all just watching the TV, and the phone rings. I pick up the phone, and it's Vogel. Do you remember Eric Vogel? Tall, lanky dude.
I think I'm still.
So he calls.
On Facebook, I think.
He calls me. I hope he watches this video because I'll never forget Vogel calling. And he said, all right, he said, Pete, I got on base. He said, but I have to go home. They're telling me I have to go home. I said, why? He said, I have guns in my truck. He had just been hunting.
Oh,
I said, you didn't realize you had guns in your
you know,
fucking truck and you were
I
coming
do
on
that all the
base?
time.
He was like, oh man, I can't believe it. That dude, I don't think he showed up until later that night. I mean, we
Well,
were
you
there.
couldn't get on the
We
base.
we were there. We did another shift. We did a whole nother shift.
So to me, it was one of them. Like once the whole it just happened started settling in, and then you realize how the world has changed so drastically. It just, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's almost hard to remember some of the details because it's been a while, but it was such a huge day.
Well, right. It was so traumatic to everybody that I mean, I know that I have a hard time remembering exactly what all was going on that day. But I'll tell you what, I have something here that always reminds me. Um, I must have in this box over here. I must have 20 newspapers at least of that I picked up on 9/11. Check this
But
out.
between you and Davis, y'all are like the best pack rats I've ever seen. Wow, I
Look at
remember.
this.
Yeah, I remember that. That's that. Yeah, that brings back some memories, dude.
And then so the St. Louis Post Dispatch, they released multiple papers that day. Um, let's see. Here's another one. Here's their extra edition. So I can hold that back
Wow,
there.
that was such an insane day. And then, like I mean,
Yeah.
now we've all seen these pictures and stuff like that, but like the emotions that you were going through and having to see for the first time, it's almost like 30 years goes by or however many, uh, 20 what 24 years. It
24.
almost reminds me. I feel like I'm one of those Pearl Harbor survivors. You know, like the men that were there or the
Mm-hmm.
women that were there the day
Mm-hmm.
that Pearl Harbor got attacked. Like that's one of them
Right.
days that you're not going to forget until the day you die. But you're not going
Right.
to be able to describe the emotion of what you were going through.
There are young adults
Yes.
alive today that weren't even born
There's people in the military
on
that weren't even
September
born.
11th.
We served
Yeah.
with some of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that kind of gets me, because like you said, I kind of feel like we did when we were younger, asking grandparents about, like you said,
Yep.
Pearl Harbor. What was it like that day? What were you doing?
Yep. Like around here, we have that like the old people. I remember being listening to old people talk about, Hurricane Camille because trying to
Yeah.
re-explain the emotion and the destruction in their head, and then like for us, it's Katrina, and then they had Pearl Harbor, and we got 9/11,
Nine
and
11.
it's just one of them. Unless you were there, and I hope that my kids never have a day like that. I really do. But
Do you remember? You remember the day
I
after?
remember a lot of chaos.
Do you remember, or several? Do you remember several days after? Right? Do you remember how quiet everything was because no air
Oh yeah.
traffic? There was no air traffic. That was to me, that was so creepy. I was like, this is
But
weird.
I mean, just to think about things that changed that will never ever go back. Probably. Well, we just started being able to wear our shoes through a metal detector at the airport. But like, remember back then, if you had a
Dude, you did metal detectors
no,
or
and
nothing.
when you came on base, if you had this little sticker on your windshield,
Right, that's all you needed.
they
Yep.
didn't even stop your car. It was like as long as you had to, I could
What was
send
it?
when my parents came to visit, I could just take my car so you can get back on.
Right, it was red for enlisted and blue
What?
for
Yeah, I
officer,
think so.
I
Yeah,
think. Something
it's
like
like, but
that.
they just how drastically things have changed. Yeah, I mean, yep. And here we go. We were in that 20 years later. We're still in Afghanistan. Well, we were 20 years up.
Here we go. Here's one from Belleville Journal. Yeah, it was really tough, man. And I can't believe it's actually been 23 years.
23.
23. I can't believe
I
it's been
know.
that long. Really. I mean,
Well, I think about it.
and then we deployed.
I was just
Go ahead.
saying, like, just think about the time, how fast it goes. I've been retired for 10 years. I can't believe that. You know,
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
it's a guy
I
who
know.
wasn't gonna re-enlist.
Yeah. I remember now I'm starting to get some memories back. One thing that I do remember that was funny about 9/11, I can't remember the name of the radio station that we used to listen to, the rock station out there, but they had been, just like everybody, they had been doing nonstop coverage of 9/11. And I was, when traffic started dying down, I walked out to it was the VFW.
Okay.
That's where it was.
Oh,
That's
you
where I
were right.
parked.
Yeah,
So I
you were
walked
right
back
there at
out.
the top then.
Yeah. So I walked over to the V, got my truck, and as I get in, start up the truck, the radio starts playing. Yes, this was back when we listened to the radio. Um, and they're talking about 9/11, talking, and then the DJ says, okay, I think it's time for us to stop or to take a break from everything and catch our breath. Here's some music. And as soon as she hits that play button, REM starts with "It's the End of the World as We Know It."
But it was.
As soon as you as soon as you heard that drum beat go off, she stops it and she said, "Probably not the best song to start with." It was really funny for that to
It was
happen.
like trying to find something to chuckle at in a horrible situation. You know, it's
Right, right. But what was funny is you could tell that she did
yeah, it was
not
not
mean to
planned.
do
It
it.
just
She just hit play
yeah,
and
it
there
was
it
probably what
was.
was queued up. You know, because back then they had to. It's probably
Yeah.
queued up like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
or
For
yeah, for
hours.
days.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
before
Oh
that
my god.
happened,
Yeah.
before the first plane hit, that was gonna be the next song, which would have been cool. But
Right.
you know, or
Right.
yeah, that or, like
And then
Everybody Hurts would have been a bad one too.
yeah, I remember I finally make it back on base. I go inside and early, you know, and I don't want, I'm not going to bitch about it, but I remember that we had a double shift that day and everybody else had one shift. Man, we were so fucking tired, dude. So tired. But as soon as I get back there, uh, my sister had called and left a message. They had been released from Boeing, and she, I guess, had to pull over to call to let me know that she was on her way. But traffic was so bad leaving Boeing, it was just like us trying to get on
Yeah.
base.
So
It was
they've been
ridiculous,
there.
man.
Like you can fall asleep in your damn car.
Right. But do you remember, seriously, do you remember what it was like before 9/11? Do you remember going through airports? Do you remember sitting on the plane and being able to do this and look straight through the windshield of the
Yeah,
plane?
I do.
That's all
Yeah.
you had to do.
I remember being able to go to the gate without to meet your loved one coming in. You know, yeah,
You could
could just
go
go
straight
to the
through.
gate
Yeah.
and meet your
Yeah.
person. But now you got to be ticketed. You got to go through metal detectors. You can't be brown. All this other stuff. It's all changed. I mean, just think about so what. We're almost going through a little bit of that now. Same thing, but remember, if you were Middle Eastern back then, it
Oh
was
yeah,
like
buddy.
it was. Yeah, I could
Life was real
imagine. I
fucking
remember
tough.
when one day, I don't know who else would remember this, but there was a guy, Middle Eastern guy in a military uniform, and his shit wasn't looking right, like in his blues or whatever, and it wasn't on right.
Right.
He looked weird. Everybody's like hyper focused on the brown people right now, which I mean, we all were.
Right.
I mean, let's not lie, we all were. And it turned out that, so once they went out there and got this guy, I guess, and it turns out he really was a doctor officer, but never wears his uniform. So, like, like typical
Yeah,
doctor,
it just looked like
typical
shit.
doctor
Yeah.
that doesn't ever wear a uniform. Had no idea how his, because I think he had like the one, like one ribbon or two, you know,
No, that poor
like
guy.
major. Had
Yep.
no clue how to wear the damn thing, and so of course he got called in. But even back then, they would do exercises and stuff. So I mean, I would have called it in too, to be honest with you, because what am I going to like pass that up and then see? Then it was me that didn't call anybody and say, "Hey, there's this guy that doesn't have his uniform on properly."
Yeah.
Man, you don't use
Different
it.
world.
Is, and then it wasn't even that it's a different world because of age. Like that day literally changed the world. It
Everything
changed
changed. Everything.
for
Yeah.
a lot of people.
But yeah, the world, I mean, 99% of the world was holding our
Oh
hand.
yeah,
And they held our hand for the longest
for
time.
20 years. For 20 years.
And here we are now, man. We're just shitting on everybody.
And you know what? Because that's been 24 years ago and we've forgotten. And you know, all those people that had those shirts on, me included, we have these shirts on and still wear them sometimes. Say gone but not forgotten. 2001, never forget. 9/11, never forget. I mean, when we try to play, when we try to isolate ourselves from, and I hate to make this episode even a slight bit political, but it just is. I mean, it just is, because how do you remember that and then want to be an isolated country away from all these other people that were there that day? All those presidents were calling our president, and before that day, I hated that man. Well, I say hated. I didn't. I hated his politics. I didn't hate him personally. I just hated his politics. I used to say, okay, he looks like somebody I'd want to drink a beer with, but I don't think he should run the country. But that day, everybody had his back. I mean, he's one-term president. If that doesn't happen, I'm telling you that right now, because his approval was in the tank. That happened in the way that he responded, and as like almost how I would imagine Joe Biden would have done it. Like, you know, like he's your uncle or your loving, you know, grandpa. Like I'm here for you. The way that he stood on that. Remember when he stood on the rubble and you know,
with the firefighter.
You know, that is what presidents are supposed to do. And that changed the trajectory of his life immensely, because he was going to be like his father 100%. John Kerry would have wiped the floor with him had 9/11 not happened. Yes, I'm a nerd, and I remember who was running against him in the
nerd. Yeah, I'm with you. I was not a fan of his at all. I mean, you know, there's a difference between not being a fan of a Republican president and not being a fan of a MAGA president.
Yep.
You know, because there was still some respect, because, like you said, he wasn't shutting us out of the world, and he very well could have. Sure.
And you know, another good thing, Pete, that I remember is just the right and left unity that we had going on during that time. Oh. The empathy that the entire world that had for the New York Fire Department and the New York Police Department, and just the citizens of New York, plus the families that lost their loved ones in the towers and lost their loved ones that were also in the towers, but the law enforcement and firefighters and all the first responders, EMTs, like it was. I've never seen this country more united in my life.
The country really came together. It was something that excuse me, that I wish that more of us could remember. You know, what was it like to what was it like to talk to look at your neighbor who you probably didn't really know before and know why they were upset at the time, right? What they had just seen because they saw exactly what you just saw. A total stranger on the street who was crying, and you know why they were crying. Do you remember the amount of American flags that people were out flying and buying? It was incredible.
I mean, you
It,
got to remember.
it's something that I
You
haven't
got to
seen
remember
since.
that
I've
and I
never
bet
seen
it
it since.
hadn't been seen since the 1940s when in Pearl Harbor. Like that sort
Right.
of unity, like where we all wanted to. Like I've told you, I was about to get out. I had no desire to stay in the military.
Hmm.
None. The
Hmm.
world changed. My mind changed. My maturity level changed. Everything changed that day when it was like, well, now I'm needed. It went from
Right.
I'm here for the GI Bill to I'm needed.
Right.
This career
Right.
field that I'm in that was about to get, if you remember, was about to get shut down, and we were all going to be cross trained into another career field because they were going to
Right.
get
Right. We had just become the
yeah,
LRS
and
or
they were going to
something
get
like
rid
that.
of vehicle ops altogether and just attach it to like I don't
Right.
know if it was going to be supply or PAX terminal or what, but we were all going to be separated into different squadrons. I didn't feel like going through that mess. Well, once that happened, and then the Army needed truck drivers, our career
Hmm.
field went from going away to we started beefing it up. Like we started getting new recruits and things like that. And I just remember it's crazy how that will a thing like that will change everything. And like people don't understand. These younger people don't. Of course, we sound like our grandpas. These younger people though they don't know what it
Whippersnappers.
felt like to watch the news live and
And feel
watch
the change.
these human beings jumping out of these towers that
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you remember that?
it was
God
so
damn it.
painful to be in there that people that didn't want to die, they just they couldn't handle the heat was too intense. Like it's
It was either
yeah, and
burn
I mean
up
it's like what
or
do you
jump.
do? I mean, I totally like these people went to work just to go to work and come home. They didn't go to work thinking that, oh, I'm gonna
I
be jumping off
remember
the tower today.
I remember watching a news broadcast. I don't remember who. Doesn't matter. But I remember watching a news broadcast. The first thing they showed was the man. Everybody knows the man I'm talking about that had one leg bent in and one leg straight out, jumping out of the building. Everybody saw him. But as soon as they cut away from that picture, once they knew what it was that they were seeing, they were talking to somebody on the street, and all of a sudden you started hearing bodies hitting the ground, hitting cars, hitting the tops of roofs, and they just had to get off the street. They had to shut off all the news. It was so fucking disturbing to hear and witness that. I mean, I don't think yeah, I hope to pray I pray that nobody else has to do this. That this is the last time that this world has to see something like that because it was horrifying and it it changed the world. But Hog, I know you understand this. It
Mm-hmm.
changed us. That that was the beginning of the change for every man and woman in uniform. Thanks for tuning in to Altitude and Attitude. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you Monday for another episode.